First it was Vietnam, now it's Indonesia. A lot of these Southeast Asian countries are falling in line under President Donald Trump under threat of tariffs, and the liberals are fuming. Indonesia has now struck a trade deal with America and with President Donald Trump. The details are amazing, and I'm going to cover it all right here on American Advocates.
We made a deal with Indonesia. I spoke to their really great president, very popular, very strong, smart, and we made the deal. We have full access to Indonesia, everything. As you know, Indonesia is very strong on copper, but we have full access to everything. We will pay no tariffs. So they are giving us access into Indonesia, which we never had. That's probably the biggest part of the deal. And the other part is they are going to pay 19%, and we are going to pay nothing. I think it's a good deal for both parties. But we will have full access into Indonesia. And we have a couple of those deals that are going to be announced. India basically is working along that same line. We're going to have access into India. And you have to understand, we had no access into any of these countries. Our people couldn't go in. And now we're getting access because of what we're doing with the tariffs. So they're paying 19%, and we are not paying anything. And they're going to give us full access into Indonesia. Now, Indonesia has some great product, and they also have some very valuable earths and various other materials. One of the things, as you know, they're known for is very high-quality copper, which we'll be using.
Liberals can't stand this. First of all, no other president could have ever gotten access into Indonesia's marketplaces the way President Donald Trump, the deal-making president, has gotten for us. 0% tariffs on all American exports into Indonesia's marketplaces is going to help American companies, businesses, and farmers. That's a big one. I'm going to cover that in 1 second here, because that's one of the main criticisms you hear from so many people, so many uneducated people when it comes to the Trump trade deals. Oh my God, he's killing our farmers. He's going to ruin them. No. Quite the opposite, actually. With these trade deals and the way that they're shaping up and the patterns that we're starting to see with these trade deals, President Donald Trump is going to be one of the most farmer-friendly presidents we've had in this country for probably a century or more. But I want to talk more specifically on the topic of the rare earth minerals that he talked about. Copper being a big one, absolutely. This is going to be a key for America, but there are other ones as well. Indonesia also has one of the world's largest nickel deposits and accounts for 51% of the world's nickel mine production. On top of that, Indonesia is expected to topple the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, as the global cobalt leader by the year 2040. The DRC's cobalt output forecast is expected to drop 45% by 2030 due to declining ore quality, while Indonesia's cobalt production is projected to rise 80% by 2040. And why is this important? When you combined nickel and cobalt, you have two of the most important ingredients, let's say, materials needed to make electric batteries, which things seem to be shifting towards, at least somewhat. And it's going to be increasingly important to have access to these earth minerals for the future. On top of that, rare earth minerals do exist inside of Indonesia. And just like what we saw in Vietnam here, a trade deal that Trump secured also recently, Vietnam has great untapped rare earth minerals, but so does Indonesia. And with Indonesia, it's undeveloped. They need to get to work on being able to develop the ability to mine those rare earth minerals and process them, granted. But there's a couple patterns with these trade deals that we're seeing, and all of them come back to President Donald Trump working around China and China's defiance, because China is responsible for the vast majority of rare earth mineral production and mining. As such, a lot of the world is dependent upon China because rare earth minerals are currently where the future is going when it comes to modern day technology. And with China playing hardball when it comes to negotiating with trade with President Donald Trump, what we're seeing out of President Donald Trump with these trade deals is absolutely brilliant strategy in play. You can see right here, this is Indonesia and Vietnam highlighted on a map. And so President Donald Trump is quite literally, in a global economic sense, take over Southeast Asia and box China out in multiple different ways. And I'm not sure, I don't want to overhype this. China does a lot, and it's not like Vietnam and Indonesia can completely replace China. But by stacking up these countries the way that he's doing, we're going to be able to start branching out to these countries now and starting to rely on them more and relying on China less. All while China sits there defiant, refusing to make trade deals and accept the reality of the circumstance, which is President Donald Trump is a leader who recognizes the true power of America and isn't tolerating nonsense from countries like them anymore and is throwing around the weight of America to the rest of the world. Countries like Indonesia and Vietnam are being actually smart, and while China may try to punish them for this, overall, being on America's side is the most important decision they've ever made. And this comes back to our farmers. Indonesia, Southeast Asia's largest economy with a population of 282 million, presents significant opportunities for U.S. exporters. In 2024, the United States exported $3 billion of agricultural products to Indonesia, with major products including soybeans, livestock feed ingredients, dairy products, wheat, cotton, beef, and fresh fruit. And so this whole, he's going to destroy the farmers with these tariffs, it's just simply not true. Because what we're starting to see with these trade deals, Vietnam, the UK, Indonesia, what Trump is working out in these trade deals is essentially 0% tariffs for American exports to those countries, all while continuing to tariff them, in the UK's case, 10%, in Indonesia's case now, 19%. In all honesty, from a global trade perspective, you cannot ask for a better deal. And the supposed trade deficit that the liberals first of all said doesn't exist, and then second of all said couldn't be rebalanced, is now all of a sudden being rebalanced with these deals. And I want to point something else out here. In this trade deal made with Indonesia now, Indonesia also agreed to purchase $15 billion in U.S. energy, $4.5 billion worth of agricultural products. So as we saw in that other article there, in 2024, they purchased $3 billion of agricultural products. They're now upping that by $1.5 billion. And they're also agreeing to purchase 50 Boeing Co jets. In the words of Trump, many of them are 777s. Also, this is important right here. If there is any transshipment from a higher tariff country, then that tariff will be added on to the tariff that Indonesia is paying, being 19%. And so once again, just like in Vietnam, how Vietnam had a tariff imposed on them and then an additional transshipment tariff of 40% being imposed on them, this is President Donald Trump strategically moving in a way to prevent China from taking advantage of their current position, which is they don't have a trade deal worked out with us, and they think that they can get around the high tariffs that Trump is going to impose on them, probably over 50% for not cooperating. And they don't care, or at least it seems that way, because they think that they're going to use these countries as their back door. And President Donald Trump is saying, transshipment tariffs on Vietnam, 40%, on Indonesia, 19% plus whatever that country's tariff already is. So he's not only boxing China out and starting to rely less on them, but he's also preventing them from taking advantage of these other countries and using them as a backdoor to export their goods to America still and avoid high tariff prices. Bottom line is, this is a massive, massive win for President Donald Trump. He does keep on winning. Epstein files are overshadowing a lot of his work. And, I'm an outspoken critic of how that's being handled. But at the end of the day, I am still going to report on the wins as well, because when it comes to the economy, when it comes to global trade, and when it comes to placing America first, I do genuinely believe President Donald Trump will be one of the best presidents we ever lived through in our lifetime. And trade deals like the one he made today prove that. Now, of course, the liberals are going to tell you that this trade deal, it doesn't exist. We hear that all the time, only for it to be finalized a couple weeks later. And so what I would say to you is, if you're one of those liberals who think that this Indonesia trade deal doesn't exist and it's all made up, dislike this video and never come back. But if you think that this trade deal is amazing and it places America first, give this video a like and subscribe to American Advocates for more content like this. Thanks for watching.